Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shute Out. We are 6 weeks into the Blue Crane Capital Shute Shield season. Tom Coolican joins us as always. Coolo, hi, how are you?
I'm well, Will. Great to be here. We're in the thick of it now, aren't we? We're really in the meat part of the season. Teams went bush on the weekend. We had Cowra, we had Mudgee. Great to see, the Shute Shield being taken to the regional areas of New South Wales.
Round 7 in the competition. Our match of the round on 9 Gem and 9 now is Northern Suburbs hosting Southern Districts. Two fascinating sides in the stage of the season they're at, and we're looking forward to that. Our guest tonight from North is Josh Barr, who has returned from injury and off the back of a massive campaign last year is a real star to watch through the back half of the season. And also Ella Goldsmith on the refs room, an established refereeing star now, but also still rising through the ranks. So we're looking forward to that. But Coolo, round 6 of the Blue Crane Capital Shute Shield, our match of the round on 9 Gem and 9 now was Eastern Suburbs and Hunter Wildfires, and Easts just did what they do at home at Wallara.
Yeah, a little bit of a cruise control victory from the Eastern Suburbs Beasties down there at Wallara Oval. The 4th minute more try looks like a Wednesday hit out versus Colts. They barely broke a sweat, crashing over. Things didn't go to plan there necessarily for Eastern Suburbs after that. There was a bit of rust there. And then the 23rd minute, Chris Bell going off. That could have been a momentum shift, but Hunter just really couldn't kick into gear. 3 missed opportunities, a couple of kicks going dead, some missed 5-metre lineouts. I still don't think John Porsche is quite the answer at 10. They obviously left Logan Love at home as well. Couldn't quite get into a rhythm. They don't have the firepower out wide, I think, to really run it from anywhere. So they really need to rely on that territory game and kicking game. We talked about missing Logan Love, and they just didn't have his box kick to advance into the Eastern Suburbs half. And look, the Beasts were just too good.
The Two Blues and Southern Districts out at Holroyd, it was 50-24 the way of the Two Blues, but Souths were, as they've been a number of times through the season, right in it for good stretches. It wasn't a great start from a neutral's perspective, errors early, but Souths are good. Cam McKenzie still keeps doing amazing things, or really strong things, I should say, that illustrate that he is certainly up to the next level with the right guidance as well. So we'll keep an eye on his development and progression with Scott Favour and the Southern Districts crew. But Rainy Uia was great when he came on. Early second half steers the Two Blues to a try off the line out and maul, and slick backline work from the Two Blues soon after. Sebastian Vicinilla scored. Rod Yona was pulling the strings really well. So calm, great guidance, great vision. Isaac Tatamaki was terrific too. Two Blues were at 19-17, and then another great backline try put them up 26-17. Lalungi Vicinilla, strong contact. Tatamaki finished it off, and it was those two just continuing to be so assured, Yona and Tatamaki. So we move on, Coolo. Randwick, a big win against Uni for their season.
And this one certainly surprised a lot of us. Randwick, after a big win versus the Two Blues, the week prior, probably went in as underdogs. Uni raced out of the gates earlier, Kobe crashing over in the 3rd minute. Uni then spent the next 10 to 15 minutes defending, really hard, and they just, Wicks couldn't crash over. Hendren, who was sort of finding his feet, I think he's a better 15 than 10. I understand why he has the 10 jersey with Deegan out at the moment. Hasn't played a whole lot of rugby. A couple of kicks went out, a couple of kicks went astray, but he found his momentum and found his groove. Uni up 12-0 at one stage after a lovely kick from James Kane, which found the grass and allowed Pullman to crash over. Had a real opportunity, but Bellinger with a massive turnover, and that was, for me, the pivotal turning point. 20 minutes in, Uni score 19-0. Their breakdown accuracy just wasn't on. Isa Naisarani, for me, that battle with Tavita Okoye, the 2 internationals at number 8 going toe-to-toe, that was brilliant. Uni were down 24-12 with 20 minutes to go. Entered Joey Fowler. Ollie Schmood came on as well. Fowler was crucial off the bench. Had a lot of spark, taking the ball to the line, squaring up the defence a little bit more. I still think Uni's discipline and inability to treasure possession are their 2 biggest issues. Piggyback penalties, so penalties on penalties, and just throwing away the ball way too often. I still think they're also struggling on their game management and how they want to play. There's a real hybrid between crossfield kicks and territory management with run it from anywhere. And I'm seeing a bit of a flip-flop there, but it's a cohesion issue, and they'll come good under Coach John Maneni. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but it doesn't get any easier for them this weekend. Gordon at home, that's going to be a tough one.
West Harbour 29, Warringah 50. This was a beauty. the first 25 minutes is awesome viewing. Head on to Stan Sport and have a look. Even for the Rats, they were down like 19-0, but their ball carrying was awesome. West Harbour scored in the opening 3 minutes, and then their second try was terrific. It was a line-out win, a maul, penalty advantage, crossfield kick from Maleli, pace and skill from Matt Whelan. They were up 12-0 within the first 10 minutes, and they were relentless. They just kept rolling and smashing Warringah. Ben Maher is such a weapon for Warringah, though. Chooses when to get involved, keeps them on the front foot, inserts himself really well. The Barnabases were great. Clayton Franz was terrific. But West Harbour, Maleli kicked really well. They were near flawless. They defended their line well. They were going so well, but held up 8th minute dropout, huge run back, Barnabas clinical tackle, another Barnabas over the top penalty, and you can only keep them out for so long, and they just sort of started to work their way back into it from there. Barnabas got a yellow early in the second half. It was 19-7 at the break, and then Maleli kicks a penalty, and you start thinking, can they do this, West Harbour, against the might of Warringah? Will McDonald is awesome. Cam Orr was great. They had some awesome moments. And it was 29-14 after Iramescu scores off the back of a maul in the 53rd minute. But it's, a bit too simple to say that was it, but that kind of was it. Warringah just found a way. They turned the screws. The fatigue set in for West Harbour. The bench for Rats was amazing. Zach Barnabas scored 2 tries in 3 minutes. He has a hat-trick, and the Barnabas has just run out the match so well. For North 17, Eastwood 27.
Yeah, the Cowra battle. I think North's they probably had a tough draw this season. They faced a lot of tough sides and struggling with momentum too. A lot of changes, a lot of injuries, and they don't have that bench, the depth of that bench to rely on with that 20 minutes to go, which they have in previous years. Probably his identity as a side too. They've had a lot of changes up front. Apollosi Runaway, head over to the Waratahs, and they're missing him. They're missing Max Bury. They don't have that physicality, and that was really telling, I thought. A lovely try in the 9th minute to Boston Karapa, individual brilliance. But then Shelley sort of responded very, very quickly, crashing over for a lovely little set-piece move. He actually scored 2 tries in that first half. The Callum Circa, which I thought was one of the absolute all-time great individual in-and-out ways that we've seen this season. And that's when North look dangerous, when they can find their men on the outside on one-on-ones with a bit of space. And that's how they got to play. I think they got to really go that east-west rugby, finding that width. North 17-12 at half-time. Game was certainly in the balance. And then Griffin with a charge down completely gets run of play. An absolute coach killer, 30 seconds into the second half. And after that, a couple of penalties and another try. And, Norths were never really in it after that.
Gordon, 47, Manly, 33 at Glen Willow Stadium in Mudgee. What a spot to be, and the surface is terrific. It's a great setting, and look, it was an open start. The game is played at such good pace when Gordon play. Manly, really positive too. Arcus with the first try, then Dickens with the second. Both backlines looking crisp. Forward pack's working hard. Simon Kennewell's really starting to assert himself on the competition. Beautiful line and strength in carry from him. Just sliced through in power to the try line on 18 minutes. Kafer supplied the ball. Some lovely set-piece work from Gordon. Korea scores. They go up 14-12. And then Tamworth's Harry Snooks kick to Arcus from within their own in-goal in the 34th minute, was spectacular. Checked his vision. He's really important for Gordon and starting to control things really well with how he sees space and moves them around. So Gordon were up 26-12 at halftime. Ollie Arcus, after about a minute in the second half, he's a monster on those dive to the line, contort the body, put the ball down under contact. And look, another try in the 49th minute had them showing their full range. The forwards were powering Manly back, offloads and strong carries, but Albert just keeps supporting. And Gordon had a 33-0 scoring period, and that set up the win. Manly had a nice try through Dreu. Their backline isn't large, but it's well organised, it's strong, it's quick. Hickey, an interceptor, run 70 metres to score and converted. That was 47-19 in the 62nd minute, and it ended 47-33 after a couple of late tries for Manly. Beautiful sunset in Mudgee to go with it as well. So that is round 6 in the books. Keen off the back of that one to get your thoughts, Cooler, on Gordon. There's a lot of chat about how they've built through the first bit of the season. We're a third of the way through. They're in third on the ladder, but They are scoring a lot of points, they're conceding a lot, but they look like they might be the real deal to challenge that Warringah and Eastern Suburbs bracket.
Yeah, Gordon, that was a pretty impressive victory down there at Mudgee. 33 unanswered points against a Manly side that went toe-to-toe with East, 1914, only a couple of weeks ago. So we know that this Manly side has firepower and has punch, but 33 unanswered points from the Gordon Highlanders. We know what Dave Telfer can do. We know what he's done with Eastwood, particularly developing young players. He ran the Colts program for 3 years. He coached first grade for 2 years, to final series. And what he's done over there at Chatswood Oval in taking a relatively young group, a relatively unfamiliar group, and bringing them together very quickly is quite impressive. Harry Snook at 10. I love the way he squares up the line. I love the ball playing options, but also the players in motion outside of him. Barry Correa, we know what he can do as a player. At this level, he's absolutely outstanding. I think Gordon, in many cases, have gone under the radar, talking a lot about Warringah and East and what they're doing. But Gordon, for me, they punch above their weight. We talk about the dog in this Gordon side. They all get around and rally around their captain, Milan Basson. But for me as well, they got firepower too. They're not just scrappers. I think Gordon will surprise a lot of teams this season, and they'll continue to be really hard to beat at Chatswood Oval.
A match of the round on 9Gem and 9 Now this weekend is Northern Suburbs hosting Southern Districts at North Sydney Oval, and joining us is one of the stars of the North's backline, Josh Barr. Josh, hello, how are you?
Hey, very good. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you. Josh, you're back in the Blue Crane capital Shute Shield. You've recovered from that shoulder injury, came back through second grade. How nice was it to be back out there with Norths of late, and how is the shoulder?
Yeah, shoulder's all good. Healed nicely. Got looked after pretty well with physio and stuff like that, and then had a full game in second grade, and then it was nice to be back with first grade on the weekend. A shame we didn't get the result, but yeah, always good fun playing in the Shute Shield. So yeah, enjoying it.
Run us through that trip to Cowra to take on Eastwood. What do you take out of that as a group? Obviously, you would have preferred the win, but as a group, what can a trip like that do? And who was the best tourist from within the squad?
Best tourist from within the squad. Well, everyone was pretty miserable actually because we got smoked. Yeah. So and a 4-hour drive home. But Jacob Flynn's always good fun to have around. He came off the bench, plays a bit of second grade as well. And then some of the older boys like Nathan Russell, who he's been out there a few times now. He's always good value. But no, it's a good trip. Done it a few times now. It's pretty exciting seeing some of the people travel to come and watch and the support out there. And it's a nice deck as well. So we enjoy going out there. But it is a long way on a Friday and then a long journey home after a loss as well. So it's pretty grim sometimes. But it's good.
Yeah, look, you guys find yourself in unfamiliar territory at ninth on the ladder. You've had some good combinations. A great win versus Randwick when Max Bury came back. What's the feeling in the group at the moment? With where you find yourselves on the ladder, and how do you head into this weekend after a tough loss like that, a tough road trip?
Yeah, I think this weekend Shute Shield's a tight comp, so yeah, anyone can beat anyone. It's just about sort of trying to build a few combos and just get back into the swing of things and play the rugby we know we can. I think, early on in the rounds, like the first 6 rounds, it's not really a telltale sign, is it? Like there's a lot of room to move and a lot of players to come back and still play. So I think we're all still confident here on the north side, and I think we can. We've still got plenty of talent and a good side. So yeah, we're not stressing or anything. Yeah.
Max Bury coming back a couple of weeks ago, he added a lot of impact and points, to be frank. What was it like having him back on the field, and what did he bring to the group?
Yeah, he's pretty good. I'll try not to make his head any bigger than it already is, but yeah. I had a look at the stats. I think he had 11 tackle breaks or something, and last year he played a game. I played outside him. We played uni, and he's good to play with. He's a good player. He's been in the super system for a while now, so he's good. He brings a lot to the team, a lot of attacking threat, and good just experience and voice as well. So it'd be good if we can get a bit more of him in action.
And you're a Novocastrian yourself. This fixture in Cowra has been around for quite a while. I think the Sinclair boys orchestrated it. They've got property out near Millthorpe. What's your view and philosophy on bringing the Shute Shield to the bush and getting around some Cowra lamb?
Yeah, well, I reckon it's great exposure. Like, more people that can watch it, and it's good to get some of the boys out of Mossman and go and see a bit of how the other half lives. So it's it's definitely good. I quite like a bit of travel, and it's good for the it's good for the exposure and good for like the facilities out there are unreal. And I can only speak highly of it. Really, I think it's a good initiative.
On your 2025, you had an incredible season as part of that Northern Suburbs outfit. Then that injury late in the year, and you had interest from the Australian Sevens as well. How do you reflect on last year, and what's that motivation like for you, and the focus on what can take you even higher in 2026?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it all happens pretty quickly. A few injuries early on in my like sort of career, I guess you could say, and then last year, so the year before last, sort of was playing behind Harry Beery, and then last year, got a shot, put together a few good games, and then lucky enough to get the nod from Aussie Sevens for a bit, so trained with them for a couple of months, and then busted my shoulder. But it's pretty amazing, like the opportunities that can arise. I guess for this year, it's just try and stay healthy and put a few good games together again, and then just hope we can win a comp here at Norths and see what comes of that. So
South this weekend at North Sydney Oval, they've got some interesting weapons, and certainly in the centres with Rademark Vuki Neepkins and young Cam McKenzie. Do you know much about either of those two players? Have you identified much about South, and what are you expecting from them at North Sydney Oval this weekend?
Yeah, no worries. Well, we've done a bit of preview, and we know that they're. I think both of them have played for a little while, especially the 13. He's been around the Shute Shield for a long time and done some pretty good things. So we've previewed that, and we know they'll come and be ready to play. But I think likewise we've got some good strike weapons, which we probably haven't quite utilised to the best of our ability yet either. So looking forward to hopefully some running rugby and a good game on Saturday. Yeah.
There's a bit of extra catering and beverage options out there at North Sydney Oval as well. The forecast looks all right too. Nothing like a sunny day on the hill at North Sydney Oval. What's your advice to people who are thinking about getting out to North Sydney Oval and supporting the side?
Yeah, definitely get down there. It's such a good venue. You won't find any better. We love it. We love the support there. You can always see the score, sit under cover, regardless of the weather. There's some good catering options there. A few games on before. Like I said before, hopefully a good game. So it's always worth coming down to North Sydney Oval. Is nowhere better to play, in my opinion. Probably slightly biased, but yeah.
Josh, appreciate your time. Good luck through the next couple of days, and also on Saturday against Southern Districts, and of course through the rest of the season too, getting yourself right back into things with the North Side and in the competition.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Our guest on this week's Ref Room is one of the established stars, but certainly rising through the ranks as well. Ella Goldsmith joins us this week. Ella, thanks for your time. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Ella, you grew up in Coonamble. How did you end up getting into the refereeing ranks? Can you tell us a little bit about how you became a referee?
Yeah, so growing up in Coonamble, it was a well-established rugby union town. I've always been probably a rugby union kid, with my dad playing for the local Rams team and eventually coaching them. I was then got the opportunity to go to boarding school here in Sydney. So I've been in Sydney since about the age of 12, so probably more eastern suburbs than I am Coonamble anymore. But I think a natural pathway of being a player. I then worked overseas in England for a year, and they've got a very established women's rugby community program, and found my way onto the field for them. And when I came back to Australia, played for the Eastern Suburbs women's team. And after deciding not to play anymore, to a bit of change of scenery, my kind of move into refereeing suggested from a couple of people that I used to play with that they think I should give it a crack. And here we are about 5 years later.
You mentioned the UK. You refereed the bronze medal match at the World Cup last year in England, which was an enormous event on the global sporting scale. What was that experience like, being a part of the match officials teams and refereeing in that tournament? And what have you taken from that experience?
Yeah, that experience it's hard to put into words. I had almost zero expectations in terms of being selected. I knew I maybe left my run a little bit late in terms of just getting the exposure and the experience on the international stage. And when I got the call back last year, about a year ago now, actually, to say that I was selected for the middle, it was an unbelievable experience. I told my family and my coach straight away. And then it was just all systems go on how I can physically prepare, how I can, bring my technical aspects of the game up to speed. And just the experience there was unbelievable. I was surrounded by some amazing referees of names that are now on the men's stage. You've got Holly Davidson, who was there, Sarah Cox, Amy Barrett-Theron, Maggie Cogger, like these amazing women who have done crazy amount of tests. Our management team was also, high level referees. So to be in that, it was a bit of a pinch me moment. And then again, I just went there with the goal of just putting my best foot forward, trying to referee some really good games. Had the opening 2 games of the round, so 2 pool games in week 1 and 2. So it was a really good start, and I was just happy with that performance.
We've certainly seen sort of the advancement of refereeing, at both the RFU level and also in Australia as well. But we haven't seen a female sort of refereeing at the Super Rugby level in Australia. You talked about Holly Davidson, Sarah Cox. That was 5 years ago. When do you see a female refereeing a Super Rugby fixture, in the Southern Hemisphere?
I think pretty soon. Maggie Cogger is currently in a Super Rugby pod within the New Zealand program. So she was injured just recently a little bit coming back from a small knee niggle, but she ran touch for quite a number of games earlier on in the Super Rugby season. So hopefully next year she can make her debut, and then I'm looking to possibly get on the sideline next year and then work through that pathway of then finding my it's a pretty, I would say, saturated in terms of just the number and the caliber of referees and assistant referees that we have in the Southern Hemisphere. So you've got to kind of prove yourself and put your best foot forward continuously so you can get a crack at Super Rugby.
Interesting. My sister's a teacher, and she talked about the difference between teaching girls and boys, oscillating between all boys and all girls schools. What's the biggest difference between refereeing girls and boys, and who are the biggest gossips? What's the biggest pet peeve? What's the biggest difference between the 2 genders when they're out in the field?
Yeah, this is a great one. And actually, my work at Rugby Australia is to try and educate match officials on how they sometimes can understand the nuances between refereeing, between Colts to men to women's grades, because there are nuances, and the way that you communicate and you talk and you present yourself can really impact people's relationship and memories about the game. So I think for me, and a great example, I've just come from 3 Women's Six Nations games and then went straight into 2 under-20s TRC games, and just the difference between my 3rd Six Nations game to the TRC was huge. I think I've well established myself in the women's competition, so they understand how I referee. I'm quite vocal, like to use a lot of management, be proactive, but they have a lot of respect and they listen. However, women do tend to then ask a lot more questions. So your captains are coming up and asking, well, what was that for? What can I do better? A lot more than I would say typically men and boys do. And maybe that's just their interaction with me. Maybe that they interact differently with a man who might be refereeing them. But I think for me, I tend to get a little bit more sorry, not wanting to I don't feel like they're stepping on my toes, I'm stepping on their toes. So you get a little bit more caution, I would say. But I think the higher up you get as referees, especially in the high performance space, they don't care if you're a man or a woman. You're there to be a ref. You're there to do your job. So as you can see, as Holly does, she gets treated the exact same as what an Angus Gardner would now. So yeah, we're just all there picked on our ability now, which is a great thing to see.
It's probably a reflection of maturity and professionalism versus amateurism as players grow up and go through the system. I guess as a trailblazer yourself, what's your advice for young females that have transitioned from being players into referees and then risen the ranks like you have to referee, World Cup bronze medal match? What advice would you give to the next generation that's thinking about making the change from player to official?
Yeah, I've often said, I think for me, you must play as long as you want to play. I don't think to cut off your playing career to transition to something else prematurely, you'll always then still have an itch to go back. I knew my itch was well and truly over. I didn't want to get hit anymore. I didn't want to get on the ground anymore. I was very happy. But I would say that I think transitioning to being a referee, that you're very individual, and while there are moments that you do things alone, it might feel a little bit lonely. There's really good associations, and I think Australia does it very well in terms of building a team culture and having that almost that off-field camaraderie, which then you think that you'll lose when you become from a player to a referee. So I think just like those environments have really supported me, and I think a lot of the boys and the coaches at New South Wales really supported me and helped me through my pathway. So you might think it's a lonely pathway, but you have so many people around you that are always just wanting the absolute best.
Ella, thanks so much for joining us. We can't wait to see you back in the Shute Shield, but more importantly, we can't wait to see you continue to do great things in the refereeing ranks. And thanks very much for your time. Round 7 of the Blue Crane Capital Shute Shield. Kulo, our match of the round, Northern Suburbs hosting Southern Districts at North Sydney Oval, 3 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, 9 Gem and 9 Now. How do you see this one?
Yeah, 9 v 11. The win the Southern District side up against a Northern Suburbs outfit that you think would have their tail between their legs. Josh Barr talking about how it was a pretty quiet summer bus trip, 4 hours. It's a long time. When you don't get a single bonus point, 0 points on the way back from Cowra. So look, they'll be desperately trying to resurrect some momentum, into their season. Always good to come back home to North Sydney Oval. It always boosts the spirits. For North, Matt Minogue is out. Matt Ryan's in at 10. It's an interesting change there. Seb Cameron, who's also back in. Look, he's a good finisher. He's a good player to come back. He's spent time overseas as well. Hooper's also back in. In fact, it's probably one of the better North sides that we've seen. But two very different sides. South, I think, should take it to the North Suburbs side up front, up the middle. Scott Faber has this side from a set piece perspective, very, very well drilled. Douglas runs a great set piece, in the type 5. North, they've got to spread it wide. East-West rugby, circle 1-on-1, Will Cox. Give it to your speed men. Give it to them early.
East hosting the Two Blues at Willara. Really important game for the Two Blues. They head to Willara and take on the might of Eastern Suburbs, who are just about unchanged other than that unfortunate injury to Chris Bell. So Sam Walker starts at 10. Ollie Dawkins has been great, and looking forward to seeing him again on the Astro out at Willara. The forward pack's so strong. We saw Archie Gavin. We saw Rian Lowry do their work. Boxer and Tuffer Wells in the second row. Charlie O'Kane gets another start in the front row at hooker. They've got Hugo Patterson coming off the bench. But for the Two Blues, even just a bonus point keeps them right in touch with the top teams in the competition. An upset would be massive for them. Their backline will love playing on the artificial surface out at Willara, but they need the ball. Uni hosting Gordon at University. This is a big one for Uni.
Yeah, 3 versus 8 here. Gordon head down the birthplace. I think they'll be really confident. They'll be really cocky even, and they should be. I was pretty surprised by Sydney University letting that one slip through their fingers. Kudjova last week, a simple penalty with 4 minutes to go. It was pretty underwhelming from them. A few changes. Darcy Breen has come in at tight head after just signing with the Brumbies. He's a massive personality and a massive in at tight head. And they'll look to really rely on him, to gain that scrum ascendancy. No Austin Durbridge, which is interesting. They put Joe Mangelsdorf at 7. Joe Mangelsdorf is not a 7. That's like putting Peter Steptotoid, at 7. That basically tells us that University won't contest the breakdown. They'll give Gordon the breakdown free rein. Look to slow the contact down at tackle, bodies in, and win that collision, but they won't contest the breakdown. Sounds like Austin Durbridge was probably short in defensive line, over committing at times. So that's an interesting decision by Sydney University there. But this is a really good Gordon side. I thought their backs last week, 33.9 points around the halves there against a really good Manly side, that restricted Eastern Suburbs only to 19 points.
And Fowler, the start at 10. You've mentioned him earlier in the reviews, but great to see these players getting the chance to play and being released.
Yeah, Joey Fowler, he was part of that 2022 St Joseph's College side that included Jack Barrett and Max Jorgensen and Ronan Lay as well. I've coached Joey Fowler. He's a live wire at 10. We saw what he could do in Super Rugby AU. When he came off the bench, I thought actually last week he was outstanding. He squares the lineup. He's really dynamic in attack and has genuine speed off the mark and makes a difference. His kicking game is also outstanding. He can land the ball on a dime, and his goal kicking is exceptional as well. A massive in, for the Sydney University, and great to see him back playing 10, which is where he should play.
Warringah Rats hosting Randwick. Fascinating for Randwick to head up to Rat Park and see where they're at. Warringah's second half was incredible. Their first half was really good against West Harbour as well because they just sustained, they stayed in the fight and they didn't panic. Their side is still very strong. A couple of changes in the back line. Alpha Kepu on one wing, Charlie Tupou's on the left, Tyson Davis and Jackson Rapata again in the centres. That forward pack, they just keep rotating players through and keeping various players fresh. But for Randwick, can't wait to see Wyatt Ballinger, Max Moore and Isi Naisarani against the two Barnabases and Clayton Franz. That battle is huge at the breakdown. Hendren again at 10, really important with that combination with Mitch Short for Randwick's chances. Gage Phillips at fullback. We know that Ben Maher and Co like to kick. There's no Ben Woollett starting, so keep an eye on that one. But it's the yardstick, the litmus test for these sides, heading up to Rat Park to see where they're at. We saw Gordon do it a few weeks ago and really hold Warringah and ask them questions. They grew from that experience, and this could be an important one for Randwick to see where they are at and how they keep building. Manly versus Eastwood at Manly Oval.
Yeah, it's two sides that both went bush. One came back with a win and one team came back with a loss. Talk about Manly, 33 unanswered points against Gordon. They kept Eastern Suburbs to 19 points a week earlier, but I just was shocked how narrow they were in defence. Your defence is a liability, to be frank. A lot of points, scored through his channels. And I think Gordon really exposed that, Hickey particularly. But we look at the back three of that Eastwood side, Nelson, Shelley and Crow. They're just as dangerous and just as dynamic. And look, we know what Manly can do from a Dickens perspective and from a Joe Dillon perspective. Louty's back. Bird is also starting as well. They're two big ins. This is a better Manly side, but the inability to defend and to defend at width is a real challenge for this Manly side. And
Hunter Wildfires hosting West Harbour. It's a slightly later kickoff, 4 p.m. on Saturday. This is the one for West Harbour up at Hunter. Hunter will be stinging after the performance at Eastern Suburbs. They were held at bay. Points were hard to come by, but they've still got a lot of injury concerns, Hunter Wildfires. Will Wooten is at 9. Moses Jones gets the start at 10. Palmer on one wing, Ulberg on the other. Porch goes back to fullback. And for West Harbour, they've got two genuine stars in the forward pack on Will McDonald and Cam Beetham on one side. So there's no Cam Orr start. Setawala starts for him. Aidan Wern at the back of the scrum's another one of those stars. But they might have found some balance that's interesting for them with Hunter Hannaford at fullback to size things up and kick and keep them moving. And Arthur Malelli was really good last week in terms of straightening them up, but also kicking and making sure Warringah were down in the part of the field that West Harbour wanted them. So reluctant to say it, given the trip up to Hunter, but I feel that if West Harbour can even get close to the performance that they put up against Warringah, then the win against Hunter is coming. So that one at Newcastle Sports Ground, number 2, to round out Week 7 in the Blue Crane capital. Shute Shield. But Kulo, it's an important month for these sides to make sure that they find themselves in the right part of the ladder, and we can't wait to see what round 7 has in store.